If he falls, yeah, there's a chance he could break something, but he'll be okay. So I thought that it would be fun for just a second if we shared a little bit of our own childhood. I immediately just run out the door, but I expect him to be standing right there, right at the door. Was he standing at the door? Nope. Welcome to I Get It, a podcast for the modern woman who doesn't want to live mediocre. We're balancing babies on our hips, typing out that important email, and flipping pancakes at the same time. Not to mention, keeping things steamy with our husbands right before we put our face mask on for the night. It's not easy, and you are not alone. I'm your host, Tiara Wages, and I get it. Today is a very big day. It's a very big day.
Why is that?
Wesley, where are we right now?
We are at our studio for the first time in
a super long time. But more importantly, where are our children?
with a sitter.
They are not with us. For the first time in 7-8 weeks,
Yeah, for you.
for both of us to be alone together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. We're having a date night after this.
Yeah. Take out, sitting in the production van.
We could watch a movie.
The van goes rocking. Don't come a knocking.
Seriously?
If you know what I'm saying.
I'll take you up on that.
I should not have even made that joke because now there are expectations.
Yeah, they are.
Also, aside from our children not being in the room with us right now, there has been a large change in my life today. Something that I just need to come out and say and just address right off the bat. You may be noticing my glasses and think, oh, Tira, those are so cute. And I completely agree. A little secret about me, not so much a secret, I guess. I have perfect vision.
Tira's eyes are completely fine.
I've always wanted to wear glasses my entire life. But my eyes have failed me to not fail me.
This was a big, I would say, dilemma in our relationship because for years you were like, I want to wear glasses. I want to wear glasses. I want to wear glasses. I can't wait for my eyes to go bad so I can wear glasses. And I'm like, dog, just buy some glasses.
You only live one time. And if you want to wear glasses, wear glasses. And sometimes those glasses are just a accessory.
Yeah.
They are just there to be cute. But today my glasses are serving a very important purpose in my life. Wes Wages, do you want to tell the people why my glasses are on my face?
Why don't you? Can we do a zoom in? I don't know. You have blue eyebrows right now.
So coronavirus has taken its toll. It's taken its toll on businesses. It's taken a toll on humans and their families. But
matches your shirt.
For me today, the coronavirus went to another level, and I attempted to dye my eyebrows by myself with a kit that I just bought off the internet. And
did it just come in today or something?
It came in yesterday. I did it this morning, and now I have blue eyebrows for an unknown amount of time. But they are here in person, and the glasses are now going back on.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a real thing.
I was going to ask if you could host the video that I'm doing tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, I got somebody else.
Oh, yeah. To make matters worse, not necessarily just worse, my hair girl, my homie that's been doing my hair for 10 years has taken this opportunity to retire. And I am thrilled for her. I'm over the moon that she gets to start a new chapter and something exciting. I love women that go after what they want. But on a very selfish level, I have blue eyebrows. And we're going to have to figure something out about this.
Yeah, just keep doing photos. Don't get into the feminine eyebrow dyeing world. But
I'm going to have to not only figure out this situation for myself, I got to find a new lady now. If all y'all girls get me, you feel me in this right now. So, but we are not talking about those things today. That is not our focus. We have a topic that I don't think it's controversial, but it might be because people have major opinions on this topic. And like most things in life, I tend to find myself floating somewhere in the middle, which is kind of why I want to be in this space, to kind of help open people's minds that are so far one way or so far the other way, to kind of bring different perspective to come to a meeting point. So today we are talking about motherhood. Is this our first
I
motherhood
float in the middle
topic?
of that too. Yeah.
I know you really relate to this. But we are talking about how we parent, how I'm parenting my child right now is going to affect them later on in life.
Yeah.
And
it's a scary, scary subject.
It's actually the most terrifying subject. But we are going to specifically talk about helicopter parenting versus, I guess, the opposite of that. Is there a term yet? I call it a 70s mom. One day, a few weeks ago, I locked the kids outside in the backyard. We do have a fence, but I legitimately locked the back door where they could not get back in my home. And I felt like such a 70s mom in that moment.
Why 70s?
Because they're inside smoking, playing bunco with their friends while their kids explored the neighborhood and did whatever they wanted to do without people watching them.
Yep.
So I tend to find myself straddling somewhere in between. And we had a moment in our home last week, which we will share with you. Just buckle your seatbelt, folks. That has sparked this conversation today, and something that took place in our home that sent us down to the place nowhere wants to go right now, the emergency room in the middle of a pandemic.
This is the second time we've been to some type of
doctor's office.
We've been to 2 doctor's offices visits, emergencies, basically. One was a splinter and the other one was this. And then the emergency room.
Yeah. We wages know how to do
really good
things.
Job in the last 8 weeks.
We're doing really good. And so early on in my parenting, I think I want to say Olive was less than 2 years old. This term came to me that I'd never heard before. Whenever you're not a mom, you're not aware of mom things. So I feel like it was a new term, and that was being a helicopter mom. There was this article that came out about how helicopter moms essentially are ruining their children. They're not giving them the ability to learn for themselves or figure things out. And they're going to grow up and be non-functioning. They can't make a decision. They will be living on your couch because they can't do anything for themselves. That's essentially what the article said.
Yeah.
You did not want to be that mom, obviously. Yeah. Within about, 3 to 6 months-ish of me discovering this new term and this way of being, the Cincinnati Zoo situation happened, where the mom was there with her family and all the kids. And the little boy, which we have that boy in our home, I know exactly which one it would be, snuck away into the gorilla exhibit. And so sadly, the gorilla died as a result of that situation.
So the zookeepers had to put the gorilla down.
They felt like they were choosing boy or gorilla. That was what that moment came down to. And obviously in that moment, they chose boy.
Yeah.
But what then proceeded to happen after that, so many people were devastated over the gorilla, which I am an animal activist, especially for elephants. That is heartbreaking to me. Yeah. They were hating though on the mama. They were not looking at the zoo, and there's a major breakdown there. If a child can get into any exhibit at the zoo, that mom received death threats. She was persecuted by society.
That could happen to anybody.
And I'm telling you right now, that could happen so quickly. The fact that has not been us when we've gone to the zoo, honestly, it's just been pure luck. We were at the beach this last summer on vacation, and we're watching our kids closely, and our 4-year-old.
Were we watching our kids closely?
Oh, I was nursing the baby.
Yeah.
But I had my eye on the children. So yes, I was watching them. Wes was in full beach dad mode. That's where he gets to shine. He's in the sand doing the sand castles and the waves and all of these things. And our 4-year-old just had something in his mind, and he started running. And he didn't stop running. And Wes decided, I'm going to let him run to see how long it's going to go.
Yeah.
At what point will he stop?
He was a steady jog, and I'm just a fast walk. You know what I mean? I was probably, 25 yards behind him, just watching him to see if he would even turn around.
But moral of the story, he didn't.
Didn't turn around at all.
Did not turn around. And we didn't know he was about to take off. There was no warning sign. There was no conversation. The boy stood up, turned around, and started running. And if we had been looking away or down 5 seconds, literal 5 seconds, because there's people everywhere, we would have missed it.
Yeah.
Like, we just got lucky that we happened to be glancing in his direction when that happened. And so I've just had so much sympathy for that mom when she was being a great mom. Like, she was doing what she was supposed to be doing. More than likely we all are.
Having a family day at the zoo.
Having a family day at the zoo, yeah. And for her to then experience that type of backlash and what that did to her. And so it's like, don't be a helicopter mom. Don't do it. You're the worst. But you better keep your eye on your kid every single second of their life and make sure they are never going to do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And if you do one thing or the other, you're done. You're the worst. There is so much pressure on parents to keep our kids from getting hurt while simultaneously giving them freedom to explore and learn new things for themselves. No one does it 100% right all of the time. And so I thought that it would be fun for just a second if we shared a little bit of our own childhood. What our
I don't remember past
experiences.
high school. So
Yeah,
it's like,
Wes has the worst memory of any human that I know. Any human that I know. This is why we do video, so he can remember. And just kind of share what it was like 34 years ago when I was growing up and what type of environment that was. And for me, I definitely didn't have the helicopter parent situation. I lived in the county. I'm a county kid. I'm country folk. Lived at the end of a gravel drive and there were tractors on the road. And I love it. I love that that's a part of my heritage and who I am. And we actually, anytime we drive through there, my heart just feels so full. I feel like I'm home.
On Butter and Egg Road.
On Butter and Egg Road and going to the Lick Skillet Music Country Barn to
That's
line
close.
dance. Well, I'm sure it is right now. But we explored as kids. We built forts in the front yard and went into the woods. We skipped rocks at the pond and the creek, and we did so much by ourselves. I have a few memories of my parents like taking us down to the creek and that kind of stuff for sure. But I remember a lot of just me and my brother and sister doing these things. And on top of that, my dad was a bit of a daredevil. My mom traveled a lot growing up. And so he would take us on the four-wheeler and there would be 3 children strapped to a four-wheeler and he's like popping wheelies. And looking at that now, the fact that we all survived that, like me as the adult and the fear person.
Oh, man.
It blows my mind.
The threat forecaster.
The threat forecaster, the fact that any of us survived is a miracle. But I can remember just screaming, do it again, do it again. Like, I absolutely loved it. And I guess the point is things could have gone wrong for sure, but we survived it. I've only broken my nose, and that was falling like 5 times, mostly falling off of porches or downstairs, just tripping over my own feet. And growing up out there, neither of my siblings, like we never went to the emergency room or had any issue. And we explored 40 acres of land all the time without really a whole lot of overlooking or anything. They wouldn't have known it. We didn't have phones at the time, to call if there was an issue. So what was it like for you?
I mean, it was similar, I grew up in kind of right outside of the city and remember the lake and the tire swing and I probably was the most daredevil with a go-kart that my parents got me, and I remember doing really stupid things with a go-kart.
I ran into the fence. They put me behind the wheel of the go-kart. I ran immediately into the fence.
And you're just like, okay.
I'm done. I never did it again. Sorry.
Yeah. And, I remember one time my stepbrother and I, we were playing chicken with bikes. Do you know what chicken is?
Mm-mm.
It's literally where like you just run into each other and the first person to veer off is the chicken.
Oh.
So it's kind of like jousting, you know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
would have never played that game. This is why I don't know about it.
And I remember doing this with my stepbrother, and we literally, like, we were both stubborn.
Mhm.
We hit each other pretty hard, and I think I was going down a hill, and then I remember gravel being stuck in his knee.
Oof.
He had to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stories like that. You remember those little, like, ER stories as a kid, you know what I mean? But yeah, we played outside a lot. You know, I was never a video game guy.
Yeah. You were an Eagle Scout, you were a Boy Scout.
Oh yeah.
So you were also able to explore and learn, but that was kind of a controlled environment, wouldn't you? I mean, you had your troop leaders, you were with a group of people. I mean, tell me how that was. I mean, that's not a helicopter parent, but that's your parent saying, here you go, I trust you.
Oh
in
yeah,
this.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was such a great part of our upbringing. But I mean, with Boy Scouts, it was mostly taking aerosol cans and put them in the fire.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? See what that was like. Yeah. I did a lot of fire. But yeah, there's a lot of trial and error. Is that a good word to say? Or like risk and not reward, but like
learning, if that was either a good idea or bad.
You're learning these things, you know?
Yeah.
And I do want to say, like, I feel like at our kids' age right now, they're at a certain age where we're having these fears of just like, okay, well, you know, don't run away from this moment. But like, I couldn't imagine with the fear of having older kids, right? Mm-hmm. And just having to, oh my gosh, they're driving now.
Yeah. No, we're not even there yet.
You know what I mean? Like so many parents that we know that have kids that are around that age, like they're saying, oh, you're not experiencing anything yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure. If
you're a parent like that, you should leave us a comment or something, because I would love to hear. So I don't know. I don't think we're there yet, but yeah, it's a struggle as a parent. You're just constantly saying, "Hey, am I hovering too much, or am I going to be judged by other parents if I let my kids do this, or if they get hurt doing this, am I going to be judged for that? How many times I go to the emergency room every year?"
Well, and also, like, I think it's important for parents to know your kids are stupid. Sorry, I just said
Not
that.
My kids.
No, I do not trust kids, and I think that it's a part of it is like giving them freedom for sure to learn, but also knowing that they're not very smart. You know, like, so I say that to say, I was in second grades, which our oldest will be going into second grade next year, when I can remember standing at the bus stop. We rode the bus. It was a very long driveway. My parents were already at work, so it was just us on our own. And foggy day. I'm talking about fog so thick, you cannot see 5 feet in front of you.
Yeah.
And my siblings and I
oh gosh,
were so stupid. Mama, I don't know if you know this or not. I'm breaking it to you right now. We used to run across the street back and forth, like daring each other to run across the street. And the fact that none of us were hit by a car is a miracle. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just like knowing, hey, your kids don't have all of the brain cells. Like, I don't think we need to have a loaded gun in a room with our child and be like, oh, but they're trained and they know what they're supposed to do or not supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because they're not. Yeah. Because kids are curious. They're going to run across the street when given the opportunity. And they just don't have all the brain cells to know.
I'm 36 years old, and you probably shouldn't put me in a room because I'm very curious.
Yeah, that is actually very true.
I mean, it's just like, it's a personality. We're just, especially boys, we're just very curious.
Yes.
And we're going to try things even though we've been told no so many times. It's like,
right.
Well, what if? You know what I mean? They won't be mad at me if I do it this way, though.
Right, for sure. And so I think it's giving your kids the freedom in certain areas where like, okay, there's not a car involved. There's not a gun involved. There are not these things involved that can actually literally kill them, but they can learn and explore and try new things. Last week I took the kids for a walk, and there's a university not far from where we live. So we went to the university because there are no streets. There's no cars driving through, and I let them go. I pretty much, I obviously could see them, but they were climbing across a brick wall at one point that was probably, 5 feet off the ground. And I thought, if he falls, yeah, there's a chance he could break something, but he'll be okay. I can give him the freedom in this area so he can explore and he can know what that feels like in an environment that is also still safe enough for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can give them the freedom in our backyard to go and play and explore because it's completely fenced in without even an exit to where you can't open the gate from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And know that they're okay, but I'm not going to let them loose in the front yard.
Right.
You know, and so definitely knowing those perimeters and those boundaries is part of it. And so now,
Actually, I was at a church this weekend, and the pastor said, helping them out with their streaming services, and the pastor said, you don't take a dog or a Rottweiler or something like that and put them in your yard with no leash or anything, right? It's like you always have to have that that guide. You either have to have the leash or the fenced-in yard. You have to let them roam a little bit, you know, but just kind of have that there to guide and nurture until they hopefully get older, you know?
I think that's a really, really good thing to say is having a guide. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there's definitely a difference in just completely trusting our kids to just let them loose, do anything you want. I trust you because you can't trust them, or putting them in a controlled and guided environment. I think that's a great thing to say. So I want to talk about now our own kids and situations that we have experienced.
I do remember stories about our own kids, you know.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. And kind of dividing this into different sections. So as parents, we have situations that arise, that come up. And some of those are situations that we're standing right there for. Like we are literally standing there and something has gone wrong in front of our eyes. And so one of those situations for me, I was at the grocery store and I believe it was the second kid. And this was right after the whole zoo situation happened. And I was unloading my
was
buggy.
there a gorilla at the grocery?
There was not a gorilla.
Okay.
But I was just very aware of like, you got to watch your kid. You can't, you know.
Yeah.
So he was like strapped into the shopping cart. Everything was safe and fine. And I was unloading the buggy. And of course you look down as you're doing it. I'm in the front of the buggy. He is strapped into the back of the buggy. And I'm just trying to get it done. I'm at Aldi. And if you've been to Aldi, you know how quick those people go. They do not play around. You do not slow them down.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I see this like lady rushing over, and my kid, my baby, was standing up in the, what's it called? Shopping cart. In the shopping cart.
Yeah.
Like crawling onto the thing, about to tumble onto the ground. She like catches him coming. She came to me from 2 aisles over. There was a lady standing in my aisle directly behind me watching it happen.
Yeah.
Wasn't going to say anything.
Obviously not a parent.
Obviously not a parent. Well, I don't know. I
mean, come on. Like,
yeah.
I think if you're a parent, there's like a little hidden rule. It's like, help each other out, because
I don't necessarily think of that because we're about to talk about this next story. And this is a short, I think I've only told this to one other person because it to this day makes my heart come out of my chest. We were in Asheville, North Carolina, downtown. And I say downtown to say the streets were very busy. There were lots of people, lots of traffic. We are in a toy store. When we come in, we are the only family in the toy store. And the kids are kind of playing around, and the door is wide open. And we're checking in. We see our kids, and another family, 2 people from the family come in. The rest of the family is standing directly outside the door. There's probably 5 people standing there, and we have an interaction. Like I have communicated with them. They know that I'm standing there. They know my children are in there. And I go to put a toy up that we're not buying, and I know a fight is about to break out. And this man comes and he says, "Hey, ma'am, I think your kid is outside." So my heart immediately drops, thinking, oh my gosh, my kid has made their way out of the door. By the way, this is the same kid. It's number 2. He is also the kid that ran down the beach. This is the first time this happened though. He's outside. So my heart drops. I immediately just run out the door, but I expect him to be standing right there, right at the door. Was he standing at the door? Nope. Was he standing within 10 feet from the door? Absolutely not. This child had made his way completely down the block and was now standing at an intersection with cars coming from every direction. This family there were 5 people standing there watching the door, watched my child walk out the door, watched him walk down the block. and did not say a word until he made his way down the block. And I was angry at myself. I was mad at myself that I let that happened on my watch, while I was standing there under my eye. But then I was furious at those people that they did not speak up and say anything sooner. I was so livid. And that's when we were both there. We were attentive. We were engaged. We were talking with our kids. The store was very small.
Mm-hmm.
I knew where he had just been looking. He was looking at the bin right there by the door, and it just didn't click in my head. Oh, he's about to walk out, because we're in a toy store. What kid wants to leave a toy store? And so there are those things that happen right there with us standing within feet of our children. And then there's kind of the next level of things that happen on our watch, but we're unable to be watching.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the story of what happened last week took place. And I was taking a shower. As a mom, it takes a lot to.
It was the first shower in many weeks.
I needed that shower.
Corona
But I was
shower.
home. I was home by myself. Wes had woken up to go to the grocery store. We were out of everything, and he wanted to be there within the opening hour of the grocery store, so it wasn't busy. So I'm in the shower.
Well, I wasn't there during the opening hour because that's like reserved for elderly people. I just told people
Oh,
I wasn't
okay.
trying to like piggyback off of that.
You were there as soon as you could be.
Yeah.
And I'm in the shower. Then I get out about the same time Wes gets home, and he walks in the room. He says, kid number 4 who's my 1-year-old, had a big piece of glass in his hand. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Well, then, so it makes me realize he may have been eating. While I was showering, another child opened the fridge, pulled a shelf down completely. The almond butter fell out, busted, and the 1-year-old was apparently craving almond butter at the time and proceeded to eat the almond butter with shards of glass in it. At this point, we have him down. We can see that there is glass wedged in the roof of his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I start squalling. I am reached full panic because it's bleeding. As we are like trying to very carefully remove it, it's cutting his mouth up, and I'm hysterical because it happened ultimately on my watch. But I have to shower.
Yeah.
I have to be able to do that. And the gate was closed where he couldn't go upstairs. I had done what I thought that I should do to keep him safe. And within the confines of downstairs, his room is downstairs. The other kids all have their little toys upstairs. And it still wasn't safe enough. We ended up having to go to the doctor, then the emergency room.
Yeah, I mean, our house has been baby-proofed for the last 6 years.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's just like
Yes.
we're just accustomed to that now. But
Yeah.
I don't ever think about the shelf in the refrigerator falling, and then
Almond butter falling out and him deciding
I
to
didn't
eat
even
it.
know we had almond butter in the refrigerator. Like I was
that
literally
was a
like, where
Corona
did this
purchase.
come from? Like,
yeah. Yes. And so.
by the way, do you have to put almond butter in the fridge?
Yes. After you open it, you do.
Huh.
Yep. Learn something new every day. Put your almond butter in the fridge, but put it high enough
Put it
up
up.
where your 1-year-old
Right.
is not going to eat it. And so, yeah. So then that's that next level of things that happen on your watch that you can't really control, And then there's the next level above that. And that is when your kids are not in your company. You are not there. You are working. They're with grandparents. They are somewhere else. And the situation happened last year with number 3. Babysitter was there. He twisted his leg around a playground, ended up breaking his leg. We weren't there to see it, to witness it. We have no really idea the main thing that happened. We couldn't see it. But we know he was with someone that we fully trust.
Mm-hmm.
I know that she was doing everything she could to take care of our child. And so at the end of the day, I'm definitely not going to blame her. That is not her fault.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing all of these things, knowing things happen in front of our eyes, on our watch, or when we're not present, there are things that we are doing as parents and not as parents that we need to get rid of. We need to stop it. We need to self-talk. We need to have people in our lives that won't contribute to it and that will help get rid of it. And so the first thing that we need to work on getting rid of is the shame. The the shame that we are carrying, but more importantly, the shame that we are pushing on other people, the shame that we are creating when a mom's kid gets into the gorilla pit and we as moms are saying, that would never happen to me. Yeah, just because you have gotten lucky.
Yeah.
Just because maybe you don't take your kid to the zoo enough.
Yeah.
And that is us shaming other parents. And it's not just non-parents that do it, which, let's be honest, non-parents are, you're the best parent before you are a parent. Like I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. But it is also other moms that are shaming other parents. When a kid is left in their car seat in the summer, and I personally know 2 parents that's happened to, one of which their child did pass away, the other of which by, again, the grace of God, their child survived. But it was like ambulance there, reviving. There were things that helped that child live. And those are parents that they're no different than we are. Literally no different than we are.
I've locked a kid in a car.
Yeah, yeah, you have. At the doctor's office.
At the doctor's office.
Fireman had to be called.
Luckily, I was there. I just locked yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But it's always the other parent saying, I would never do that. That could never, how could you do that? You must not love your kid. When that's just not true.
Yeah.
That is not true. And we need to cut that out. Like, I'm so passionate about that. And if you're doing it, you need to rein it in because you're going to be looking in the mirror soon at yourself with another situation. Yep. Or if you have friends doing it, you need to be like, hey, this has happened to me. Like we all can do this. And then also the shame that we carry on ourselves. Like if you are doing your best, if you are showing up for your child and you are being intentional about how you're parenting them, period. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. Be intentional. Know what your standards are, what you want to do, and follow through with that while also giving them protection, and not putting them in a room with a loaded gun.
Yeah.
Not like knowing that you're doing that. I understand, again, accidents happen with that, Absolutely. But I'm saying you purposefully are saying, here you go. Like you're not handing your kid the tool to hurt themselves is what I'm saying. And then the guilt. So when I realized that
what's the difference in the middle of shame and guilt?
The difference is, shame is saying like, I'm not a good parent. I'm not doing, this is who I am.
It has the word me in it. So it's a good way to remember, it's like your internal value of how you feel about
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also like shaming other people. That's the biggest part of the shame. It's don't shame someone else. Guilt is something you're going to feel in that moment. So last week, baby, glass in the mouth, I'm weeping. And the amount of guilt that I felt was unbearable. Honestly, I felt so small and it was all my fault and I hurt my kid. And it was very, very, very painful for me in that moment. And there's nothing that we could have done to relieve that. Absolutely nothing. But having other people to remind you, like, this is not your fault, this, and speak those things into you, that is what helps relieve it. And also moving past it to know, okay, there is nothing I could have done, doing that self-talk to not live in it and let it really weigh you down, and free yourself of that. And realize things happen all the time.
Yep.
Even under your own eye, like things happen. And thirdly, blame shifting. This is something that is so difficult. It's a conversation Wes and I had before we were married to realize things are going to happen on your watch. Things are going to happen on my watch. And the things that happen on yours could just as easily happen on mine.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's an area that could so easily divide parents if they do not have control of it. I've heard so many friends say, yeah, when my husband was watching him and he fell off the playground. And if I had been there, that would have never happened.
Yeah.
That's just simply
so I'm
not true.
Never going to let my husband have him on the playground again,
Well, for sure. Like I've definitely seen those situations play out where they think that their husband or their wife is incompetent. They push blame on them if something happens with their own kid, and pointing that finger is the easiest way to create division in your marriage.
Yeah.
when it comes to your children.
And it's a hard thing to do. I mean, I came in, I found Milo eating glassy almond butter, walked into where Tira was with him and was like, what just happened? Like, were you not watching? I mean, of course you were in the shower, but it's just like, it's really hard not to be like, I just needed to figure out what was going on in that moment. You know what I mean?
Which I will say that is one of the few times in our marriage as parents that I've ever felt you blame me for something that's happened.
Yeah. But it was not intentional whatsoever. Of course, you had no idea. Like,
but I was mad at him
I
for the
would have
rest
done
of
the
the
same
day.
thing too. I take showers as long as I make sure that the gates are closed and all of our little safety things.
Yes. But in that moment, I mean, it's rare that you project on me blame.
And I didn't even think I was.
But what did it do to us the rest of the day? I was upset. I was hurt by you. I built up walls against you.
Yeah.
And this is with someone that I know. I mean, he had just said that was not intentional. I didn't mean to do that. So that just shows how easy that can create walls in a marriage.
Yeah,
if you're pointing the finger at each other and saying, why did you do this?
Yeah.
What were you doing? Why weren't you watching? And again, this is a different story if you feel like you're living with a neglected parent. That is a different thing. I don't think that our listeners fall into that category though.
And I don't want to stereotype, but I think a lot of moms just are fearful of letting go of mothering. And so they just never let their husbands kind of be a dad. And like you do a good job of, you make sure that like, hey, I get to learn too. I mean, I've never been a dad. Obviously, I think women have motherly instincts that, you're just around children more.
Well, we
before
think
I
we can do
became
it
a
better
dad.
than you.
And you normally can. Yes, absolutely. But you also have to let the husband and dad learn, just like you have to let your kids learn. Do you know what I mean?
Guided situations.
Guided situations and put me in a fence. You know what I mean? And that's just as much. And I'm really thankful for moms and wives that allow that to happen.
Yeah.
Because
we have seen the opposite happen.
Yeah.
Sure.
Where moms will literally not let their husbands do a thing.
Yeah.
And so what that does to the husband is says, okay, I screwed up and you blamed me for that. I'm just not going to do it again.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing.
Yeah.
You know?
It produces the shame in the husband.
Yeah.
I actually think a lot of husbands feel a lot of shame in this area where moms project shame onto other moms. I think a lot of husbands feel the shame that they can't take care of their kid. So they don't take care of their kid because their wife made them feel like they did a bad job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you feel like,
Oh, hands down.
Okay.
And what it takes is, the mom to step back a little bit and say, you know what? They're having to learn. I have to be a little bit hands off. But also the husbands need to step up again.
For sure.
And say, hey, I fell off the bike. You know what I mean? I screwed up in this way, but I need to get back up again,
Yeah.
Get
Or
back
maybe your
up
kid
again.
fell off the bike, you
Yeah.
know. And then the last thing that we need to do is help each other out. Lend a hand. If you are at the grocery store and you see a child coming out of their shopping cart and that mama, she is trying to pick out what candy bar she wants for her ride home snack, let her pick out that candy bar because she needs it. And you just gently put your hand out, make sure that kid's not going to hit their head on the concrete floor, and help a mama out. If you see a kid going into a gorilla pen or running out of a store away from their parents, you have permission to stop the child from going to the end of the block, from running into the street, from going down the beach unadvised. You can do that. We are not supposed to do this alone.
And do it without judgment.
100%. Yes. I mean, I think that that's like for sure.
Yep.
But we need the help.
Yeah.
We can only have so many eyes in so many places at one time. And some of you may be shaming me and say, well, you shouldn't have had 4 kids. If you can't watch them all, you shouldn't have had 4. Guess what? These things happen when I had 1 kid. My 9-month-old burnt her hands on our stove on my first Mother's Day, and we were both in the room with her. I had 1 kid. So it doesn't matter if you have 1 kid, if you have 10 kids, these things are going to happen. Help each other out.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank y'all so much. I hope that I hope it gives some of you a little bit of peace during this while we're all at home to give your kids freedom to maybe explore. Create an area for them to explore independently away from you. If you don't have a fenced-in backyard, let them play alone in their bedroom. Make sure that they have if it's a 1-year-old, like you don't have these tiny particles on the floor or whatever, but give them space to have controlled freedom. So you don't have to do this alone every single second, especially while we are in this season.
I'm just reminded of our youngest, you know what I mean, one, and he crawls on the couch, you know what I mean? And sometimes you just got to let him fall off the couch,
He's
just
falling
to,
off the couch.
just to
a lot.
learn,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, if you go too far, you're just going to fall off. Like eventually kids learn like, oh, okay, don't go past this moment, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Make sure, put your hand under their head, so when they do fall, you're protecting, but like they felt the brunt of it.
They need to feel it to learn. Yes.
Yeah. Well, real quick before we go, you actually probably need to read a review we talked about.
Ooh, yes. Thank you so much. And to those of you that left me reviews, thank you.
On iTunes.
And a special thank you to Lance. I believe that's what
Actually,
this is
it's not
supposed to be.
iTunes anymore. It's just called Apple Podcast.
Yeah.
Sorry, technical. Who's Lance?
I don't know, Lance, but they said this is just what I needed. Thank you, Tira, for your words on fear. Just what I needed after the past 2 years I've endured. I've lived so much in fear of losing that I haven't been able to enjoy what I do have in the present.
Yeah.
Lance, I get that. And dude, I've been there. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you to everyone who has left a review. They are so encouraging to me, and a lot of fire under me. Yeah,
I saw somebody had like fire emojis on one.
somebody did. Yeah, I like the emojis. And you can also leave a review for us on Apple Podcasts. It is very easy.
We'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, and if you want to follow more of our bizarre stories, the eyebrows, the glass, you can find me on Instagram at Tera, Tera, wages, like the money. And yeah.
That's right. And the sin of wages. That's what I get a lot too.
It's true.
Tierwages.com/005 for show notes and any information there.
All right.
So,
you want to take me on a date?
yeah.
As in like, picking up dinner and eating in the car? Thank y'all so much for being here. I know that life is a little crazy, and sometimes you feel a little crazy, especially when your kid has eaten glass off the floor.
Covered in almond butter.
But you are not alone. I get it.